Hello, and welcome to Let's Play Nioh, Episode 9, Falling Snow. We are here to go to Honnoji Temple, where the famous Honnoji incident happened. That was where Akechi Mitsuhide betrayed Nobunaga and marched on Kyoto, and while Nobunaga was resting at Honnoji Temple, he attacked him. With the odds so overwhelming, Akechi very easily won the battle. Nobunaga himself committed suicide and then ordered his, I don't know what to call him exactly, lover, ward, to burn the temple so that no one could get his head. We don't entirely know why Akechi did what he did. He was killed soon after. We understand that he wanted some sort of uprising, and there was a perfect opportunity because of Hashiba Hideyoshi was out to the west dealing with the Mori. All of his generals were off doing other things. The daimyo under him were off doing other things. So Oda Nobunaga was pretty vulnerable at that moment. And Akechi Mitsuhide just took the perfect opportunity. Soon after, he went to Azuchi Castle and tried to proclaim himself the heir to Nobunaga to take over all of his territory. But he was very quickly defeated by Hashiba Hideyoshi, who then went on to turn the former realms of Oda Nobunaga into the Hashiba clan, and then eventually into the Toyotomi clan, as he became known as Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and began to rule Japan. Many died in this incident. Oda Nobutada also perished. He committed suicide. He was forced to by the overwhelming odds when he was attacked. We don't really know what happened to Lady No. Lady No is Nobunaga's wife. Her name, Nohime, basically means Lady of Mino, as she was from the realm of Mino, which is north of Owari. She was married to Nobunaga quite a time ago. It was set up by Hirate Masahide, I believe his name was, the mentor to Oda Nobunaga, who served underneath Oda Nobuhide. What happened to Lady No, we don't really know. I was not trying to make a pun, I swear. It was suspected that she actually survived and went on to serve as a spy or was killed later. Again, it's just a lot of speculation about what happened. She may have died at Honnoji as well. So, as it should be apparent, this area is all about ice and snow and water. Fire is very good here. You'll want to have fire weapons. You'll want to have a fire charm. I still find the whole hit the rock into the well thing a bit amusing, because it seems like they just ripped it straight from Dark Souls. Oh yeah, I was finally looking at the Amrita memories to learn the name of some enemies. This enemy right here is called an Amrita Fiend. Guess what the Skeleton Warrior... Oh yeah, and I died. Guess what the Skeleton Warriors are called? That's right, they're called Skeleton Warriors. And I hate these little things. What are they called? I can't remember. But they're very frustrating to have attacking you when you're trying to fight something else at the time. So the way to break these big shards of ice is you have to kill the butterflies. After you kill the butterflies, they no longer protect the big shards of ice. You may see me wander around a bit in this level at times. It's just very confusing to me. All of the snow and ice just tends to blend together to me. Something I did see, it was on the Onyroki Amrita memory, is it talks about how the yokai, their strength is stored in their horns, so if you manage to damage their horns, they're weakened. And those smaller enemy are not called yokai, they're called yoki. Which I just find fun. Here's a yoki. That's a yoki. Etc. was killed by a yoki. But what I was talking about earlier with hitting them in the head and then stunning them and weakening them, that is just something apparently that's in the lore, is the energy is stored in their horns. I don't know if there's any folklore to that. What is this one called? White bolt? Cloth bolt? They're called something bolt. They're supposed to be like women covered in cloth that slow you down and attack you. I also, in the Amrita memories, have discovered there's a character model viewer. Oh yeah, and that's what happens when an emergency happens with the puppies and I have to leave my controller behind. Nothing too serious, just them fighting. But yeah, this was when I noticed that, oh, she's actually wearing like next to nothing at all. It seems like every character who's a woman in this game is pretty heavily sexualized. Even Ginchio, with her armor has cleavage. Which, again, historically, that wasn't a thing. Armor for men and women was basically the same. Sometimes they were a bit different in the shoulder or at the hips, but that's about it. And that's also only taking into account those people being cis. We have historical remnants of armor, historical pieces of armor that just tell us that, again, the armor for men and women was roughly the same. And while in Europe, armor for women wasn't quite as common, it was a bit common in Japan because of the onabusha, because of warrior women. Women of samurai houses were often trained to fight if they had to. They would use the weapon, the naginata. The naginata was seen as the weapon of a woman. That is a form of polearm. Though, something to keep in mind, there are photos of women in samurai armor that circulate, often to show that women wore armor, which they did, they could, but there are fake photos that circulate around that are actresses posing in samurai armor. So just keep an eye out for that. So there are ice yokai. Also, right here, I'm switching to a Fire Guardian Spirit. Because of, guess what, in the icy area, the boss is icy and weak to fire. Who would have thought? But anyway, the yokai that I do know about that is ice-related is the Yuki-Onna, or Yuki-Onna. They're seen as women who exist inside of snowstorms and the snowy Alps of Japan. Generally wherever you can find very thick amounts of snow and snowstorms. They're a bit similar to a succubus, as are a lot of female yokai. The idea being that they enchant men and suck the life out of them, suck the warmth from them. And they're always seen as being very beautiful with dark hair. Nioh is a bit, I don't want to say awful, but the way it treats women, it just doesn't seem like it can divorce itself from the history of the folklore of how things develop out of the minds of people and how the views of these creatures are influenced by their own views, like their views of women. Although, even considering that and how the yokai and folklore represent themselves, well, are represented and are thought of, it still doesn't excuse certain things, like the treatment of Ginchio. Well, at least we have Senji, Tome, and Fuku. I'm sorry if I'm also being boring talking so much about history and the folklore. Do let me know if I should focus more on the game itself. This was me getting a little bit lost yet again. But you can go up here and avoid a fight for now, allowing you to open a shortcut in a much safer environment. And as often with archers that I'm frustrated with and don't want to have to deal with while fighting something else, I just shoot him in the head. Headshots in this game deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Also, this being an Amrita Fiend, Amrita Fiends have an elemental type to them. This one is water, or ice. But they function very similar to the Yoki, because they use most of the same model with some minor changes, such as all the crystals on their back and the elemental effect on their weapon. A big thing that is different, though, is if you're attacking the Amrita Fiend from behind, sometimes they'll just give up and die, but they'll fall down and explode. They fall down slowly, so you have plenty of time to get away. You just have to recognize, oh, hey, they're falling down, I better back off, or I might get caught in that. I'm not quite sure how much damage it deals, because I've never been hit by it. Also, this one skeleton warrior is messing up this fight for me so much. As is with Nioh often, just adding one little add to any encounter can be really deadly. So again, let's talk about Akechi Mitsuhide, the one who betrayed Oda Nobunaga and forced him to commit suicide. So Akechi was one of Oda Nobunaga's generals. Originally, he served the shogun Ashikage Yoshiaki as a messenger. He served under him, and when he was bringing messages to Oda Nobunaga, they just had a rapport, and eventually Akechi started working for Nobunaga. He served him diligently for quite a long time. There are some speculations about why he may have betrayed Oda Nobunaga, such as Nobunaga, before the betrayal, had been quite rude to him, which wasn't surprising. He was like that to a lot of people. He was Nobunaga. The other idea is that simply there was perfect opportunity, and that Akechi was ambitious himself, because though Nobunaga is very famous for his ambition, those around him were so too, and influenced by him, such as Hideyoshi. The other thing about Nobunaga's death is that it elevated Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi was something that I don't know if they had an instance of someone like him in history at the time. He was someone who started out serving the Imagawa, which were the enemies of the Oda, actually. But he absconded with money from them and went to serve, I believe, around the Mino province. Eventually he ended up serving the Oda as, I believe, a banner bearer? Some sort of bearer. And just kept rising up, showing promise, eventually fighting alongside Oda Nobunaga. And that's when they started to form their famous friendship, even though Oda Nobunaga was still noted for being very rude to Hideyoshi and referring to him as Monkey. But here we are, we're about to fight the boss. Here is the boss. As you may have guessed from me talking about them earlier, it is a Yuki-Onna. This is not just any Yuki-Onna. As I talked about her earlier as well, this is Lady Nioh, Nobunaga's wife. This game goes with the root and idea that Lady Nioh died at Honnoji Temple alongside Nobunaga. Both of their remains were never recovered, and if I remember right, there's a Lady Azuchi at Azuchi Castle, Azuchi Castle that shows up that some believe may have been her. But we don't really know. And this game goes with she died. She's a pretty tough fight. If you get close to her, she slams her foot on the ground and causes ice to explode around her right afterwards. You can dodge through it, but I would just say stay out of her range for too long. She can form crystals above her head that shoot directly at you. She can delay them and you have to keep getting ready to dodge or block them. She can also shoot ice crystals from above that freeze the ground, and they'll explode soon after. She can throw her staff weapon at you, and it will spin while going in a straight line. During that time, she's vulnerable. She can rush at you and grapple you, so you want to be careful of that. She has her own combos that deal quite a bit of damage, and she can hit you with water and slow you down and freeze you with her breath. When she's low on health, she begins to fire a ton of crystals, and you have to be ready to dodge them all. As you can see, there's a little bit of a tell before she goes in for her grapple. But that was Lady No / the Yuki-Onna. She is weak to fire, of course.
裏切り。信長様の天下不武の夢が炎に消えた。蛇の男の術でうつし世に戻されしも。こぼれるのは嘆きばかり。我が望みはただ信長様と共にあること。
節操天海と申す。安心様のことは福より伝え聞いておりまする。ケリーなる者は今日の鬼門にあたる比叡山に向かい申した。ゆかりある場所ゆえ穴い差し上げましょう。
Seems you have some history with this place.
打ち明けられぬこともございますが、どうぞ怪しまれますな。
Now that we've gotten the main mission out of the way, let's do some submissions. Yay! I do not like the submissions in this region. They're very hard. This first one starts out easy. It's not too bad. It's in the grasslands that you have seen before. It's mostly about fighting Yoki. Multiple at once, even. But they're not what's really tough. You can have trouble with them. You need to separate them, know when to weaken one, know how to damage them so that one can fall while the other doesn't. They're also not just Yoki, they're Amrita fiends, which are stronger and can explode, and have ranged attacks. I would say the Amrita fiends sometimes are easier because of their ranged attacks. Rather than rushing in to fight you, they'll just stand far back throwing things at you, which can be pretty easily dodged. In this area, there are a lot of those little elemental creatures. I have grown to despise them. They themselves are not tough to kill, but when you're fighting other things, they can become very frustrating. They also can rush at you and get you stuck and a little bit chain-locked, even though they don't deal a lot of damage. They're a bit like the wheel monks in that they can chain stun you. But here's why it's really hard. Oh look, it's Onyroki. Or Onyryoko. Roki. Damn it. I'll get it right eventually. This version of him is just flat out stronger. But he's still weak to poison, and still weak to water. At least I think he's weak to water. And like last time, his first phase is a lot deadlier than his second phase. You can still dodge through all of his attacks. I still find his spinning around in a circle to be the hardest one to dodge. Because you have to focus on the chains, not the balls. The iron balls, I mean. Watch out for the grapple, which hits really hard. I like to get him stuck in a bit of a chain with his swipe. He does the spinning swipe behind him. I find it fairly easy to dodge. And you do want to dodge him throwing his iron balls, especially right now. Because they will one-shot you. This version of him hits really hard. But living weapons are living weapons. Now, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Naomasa, 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 Naomasa. I don't know how to pronounce two I's in a row like that. So I would assume EI, because I'm basing that off of Ieyasu. So Naomasa is a very hard fight at this level. His spear outranges you. He has some hard-hitting combos. He has a ton of stamina and can even use a living weapon in this duel. The main trick is to just either spam him with attacks in a row, because he'll guard against the first attack and then drop his guard and take a hit. Or to stand just on the edge of his range and poke him with any sort of poke attack you have. This fight is brutal. It took me hours to get one where I won. At higher levels, if you come back and do this, it's super easy. But fighting him is worth it for his guardian spirit. It's one of the more powerful fire ones. Keep in mind too, I can survive about 2 to 3 hits from him before I may die. And with his living weapon active, less. And when his living weapon activates, it instantly lands in front of him and explodes. And if I get hit by that, it's kind of just random chance. And if I get hit by it, I die instantly. You can run away from him to buff up. It's not easy. He is pretty resistant to paralysis, but not to poison. And what I did earlier was I absorbed a bunch of Amrita from a fragrant branch and allowed me to get my living weapon, which is how I ended up defeating him. Because without it, he is a monster. He is the red demon. Talk a little bit about Naomasa. He lost his father early on because the successor to Yoshimoto believed his father to be a traitor and a spy. Originally, he was a part of the Imagawa clan and served under them. But afterwards, not really, until the people of Mikawa rose up and took over the former Imagawa lands after Yoshimoto's defeat by Oda Nobunaga. Naomasa was discovered by Tokugawa Ieyasu when he was hunting. Naomasa was adopted into the member of the Tokugawa clan, a retainer, and became a member of it, and got his surname, Ei. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's pretty famous as being the Red Oni, for wearing his red armor into battle. And after him, everyone in his family, I believe, started wearing that red armor too. And the sets of armor are surviving and have survived to this day. In Japan, you can still view them. You can probably find them online in Google, too. Here is another very frustrating fight at this level. This bridge fight is pretty brutal. This ghost hits really hard with an axe. They can have hyper armor and go through and hit you when you're attacking. And in a battle of trading, you will lose. It's the battle of poking that you can win. And sometimes ranged weaponry.